How's your computer doing? Is he stressed out, overworked? How would you even find that out? Task Manager. Let me show you. Here in Windows, I go to Task Manager all the time. You'll see why. Now, how do we get there? Couple of ways I go. First, you can go to the search bar and type in Task Manager. There it is, the app. Or you can right-click your task bar right here and say Task Manager. It's one of the two options by default. Let's go in there, Task Manager. Now, Task Manager is kind of your view into what your computer is doing right now. Everything it's thinking about, everything it's running. It's like you're looking in his diary, real time. Now first, before we do anything, we're gonna go to settings, because this is burning my eyes. Settings down here, and we're gonna change this to dark mode. Thank you. Okay, back to processes. And that's our first tab here is processes. Processes are, hey, what's running on your computer? What's open? And notice we have two categories. We have apps, and we have background processes. Now apps are things you're gonna see like bam right here in your face. Like notice we have one open, it's Task Manager, and it's right here in our face. The others are things you may not recognize, like CTF Loader, DISM Host Pro, like you don't have to know all these. But there are things you do recognize, like there's Microsoft Edge. And you might be going, why is I don't see him open down here. Where is he at? Well, when you start up your computer, there are applications that will open up in the background and just run. Some you don't want doing that, so we'll talk about in a later episode how to change that behavior. But you can see the background processes definitely outnumber our apps that are working in the foreground. And then even below background processes, we have Windows processes, 94 of those bad boys. Background processes are more like apps running in the background, whereas Windows processes are like, it's the Windows operating system running. These processes are what's making everything go. One of the main ones you'll see all the time, if you scroll down just a bit, and this is gonna be a fun exercise for you. It might scare you a little bit. Scroll down just a bit, we're gonna find, look at that, that looks familiar. Colorful guy amongst all the boring icons. Windows Explorer, that's a process. And one thing we can do with processes, and this is like one of the main uses of Task Manager. Let's say Windows Explorer isn't working. Like you're trying to click on the icons down here and nothing's responding. That happens often. What you can do is open up Task Manager. Right-click Windows Explorer when you find it in the process. You can either restart Windows Explorer or end the task. I'll do end the task real quick just to show you how scary it might be. End task. Ah! Where did everything go? Kind of an important task, wasn't it? Don't worry, we can bring it back. Don't do anything else. At the top right here, we have Run New Task. You can create a new task out of thin air. We're gonna do that right now. Click on Run New Task. I know that Windows Explorer is called Explorer.exe. Go okay. Okay, we're back. But often you probably won't end the application. You'll just do a restart. But sometimes it'll fail and just die on you and you have to start that up again. So that's a handy thing right there. Now real quick, what I want you to do is let's launch, I don't know, Microsoft Edge. Launch the application, make sure it's in the foreground. Let's just minimize that. If you scroll up to the top of our Task Manager, look, there he is, Microsoft Edge. He's no longer just a background process, he's now open and he's an app now. Now notice we have a little drop-down icon. Let's take a look at that. Look how cool this is. It's showing us the details of how this app is running and performing on your system and everything it has open. So like it even shows me tabs. So like if I open up here and I go, new tab. Let's just go to Google and one of the, or I don't know why I went to that one. And we can see here, it shows us the tabs. And the killer thing about Task Manager, and when you're looking at processes, is over here on the right, which we haven't talked about yet. It's showing us what each thing on our system is doing, how many resources it's using, from the CPU to memory to disk to network. So if your system's like slow, bogged down, going crazy. So like for example, if I wanted to open 1 million tabs and Microsoft Edge, what's the shortcut? Control-T? Ah! Okay, I just opened up a lot. What that should cause is Microsoft Edge to use more resources on my system. Notice it is going up. Not only do we have now 50 tabs open, but it's using almost 1 gig of memory, and it's kind of fluctuating on CPU. And notice because Windows is more advanced now, they do have efficiency modes, which will kind of like load up an app in the background just a little bit if you're not using it, so it can save some energy and save some CPU and memory stuff. Now, just like a background process, if an app starts giving you trouble, let's say Microsoft Edge isn't responding the way you want it to, you can't close it, even going down here to the application in your taskbar and right-clicking it and saying, close window, sometimes that just won't work. It'll freeze. So the go-to location is your Task Manager. You come in here, go to Microsoft Edge, right-click that and say, end that task. Goodbye, and it's gone. Now moving on to the next fun place is probably my favorite place in Task Manager, and that's performance. just below processes here. Performance actually gives you pretty graphs of how your computer is doing, from CPU to memory to disk to Ethernet. So think of the performance tab as like just an overall view, like, hey, how's my computer doing? And then if your computer's doing really poorly, you can dive deep into what's actually going on by going to processes. Now, I'm not gonna dive too deep into this, but you do have the option of opening up another little thing from here. Notice on the right, we have some dots. And you can have fun with this, go down a rabbit hole, go crazy. If I click on that, I can click on a resource monitor and watch what happens. We get a new app that looks kind of old, but it looks a bit more detailed. And you get a lot more fun things to look at. I'm not gonna go into it, just know it's there and it's cool. But we'll close that for now. App history is very cool. It's a history of your resource usage across your apps, how much time was used. It's pretty cool. Now, another great place, and this didn't always used to be here in Task Manager, and this is startup apps. These are the apps in your system that will start up when you reboot your computer. Now, we're not gonna cover this right now because there's another place I like to look at to control this. But for example, Cortana is disabled. I like that it's disabled, but I could enable it right here. I could also disable Microsoft Edge, which, you know what? Why is that opening? I'm gonna disable it right now. Now, why would I do that for startup? Well, it can impact how quickly your machine starts up. If your machine's having to boot up and load the operating system, but also load all these other applications, you're gonna be sitting there sipping your coffee for a while, which normally is okay. But well, if you got stuff to do, come on, you got stuff to do. I like a quick boot up and I like to start the apps manually myself. Just a personal choice. Now we got users, shows logged in users and what the users are currently doing. I gotta be honest, man, Task Manager has come a long way. It didn't used to show all this stuff. As an admin, I could say disconnect the user. I can jump right into managing the user accounts from here, which takes me to, look at that, control panel. Then we got details. Details is like processes, but a little more crazy, more detail for you. And finally, services. I'm not gonna go too deep into services, but just kind of think of it as an application or a background service that you want to run all the time. And notice that on the status here, some are stopped or not running because we don't need those. But others, like let's go find one that's definitely necessary. And you'll understand why it's a service, it's important. So services like Credential Manager, which is the Vault service, DHCP, DNS, Microsoft Defender. These things run as services. We can start, restart, but notice we don't end a task like an app or background process. Or the spooler, man. If you ever have to support printers, print spooler, if you ever have a print job that gets stuck, the print queue is going crazy, you go in here and restart the sucker. Happens all the time. Now that's Task Manager, an application you're gonna use all the time, probably every day. That's all I got. I'll see you in the next episode.